What if we have a production quota of 4 units? So I've already drawn the demand and the supply curve here. For a production quota, what you want to do, if it's 4 units, then draw a line at a quantity of 4 units. So look at Q down here at 4 and draw a line straight down right at 4 units. And let me I'll color that red so we know that what that tells us is that it's illegal for us to go beyond producing 4 units. Again, with a production quota, this goes back to an example from way back from chapter 4, where I asked the question, suppose you were a seller and you only had 4 units to sell. What price would you want to charge? Now, if you're a seller and you have 4 units to sell and you want to obviously sell them for the highest price you can, what you want to look for is on the demand curve here, you want to find the highest price, label that D and that S. You want to find the highest price where your customers will still want to buy the 4 units that you have, and that's going to be this point on the demand curve here where Q equals 4. This P right here will tell you that price. So look right over here. That's the price where people will be willing to pay and still buy 4 units. That's that highest price. So I'll color that blue right there. That price here is $15. So while the seller could charge 14 or 13 or 10 and still sell the 4 units, that $15 is the most likely price that people would pay. So if the price is 15 and the quantity is 4 units, we can start calculating things here. So we can, let me draw the total revenue here to fill up that total revenue box. So I'll color this whole total revenue box blue here, and it's transparent so that you can see behind it the components that will go into total revenue. And that total revenue is going to be 4 units times 15 or $60. So total revenue is 4 times 15 or 60. Let me make that a little bit bigger here. Now we see that the consumer surplus is going to be this area up above here, so let me color that in. Area above the price of 15 but below the demand curve. And like we did in class, I'll color that yellow. And the variable cost is always the area under the supply curve, so let me highlight that area. From 0 up to 1, follow the supply curve up over to 4 units. Alright, so that's green. And then the producer surplus is what's left of the blue. So I covered up the variable cost there with the green, and the blue is going to be the producer surplus part of total revenue. And so to calculate the area of the variable cost here, we can break this green into 2 parts. We can see that down below here is a rectangular part of variable cost down below this line, and then the triangle up above, and we can add those 2 together to get the green variable cost. The bottom part is just 1 times 4 or $4, and the top there is 1/2 times 4 times 8. 4 times 8 is 32. This top part is 16, and so the 16 plus the 4 together gives us variable costs of 20. And now we can find the So we already, the consumer surplus, we didn't calculate that. 1/2 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Half of that is 8 for the consumer surplus. And the producer surplus, now we can get total revenue 60 minus the variable costs of 20 is going to leave 40 for the producer surplus. Now the deadweight loss, we can see, is going to be this triangle over here that used to be part of the total surplus but now is no longer surplus by anyone. And so let me color that purple here. And now this total surplus triangle, let me make that a little transparent so we can see behind it. The area is going to be 1/2 times, let's call this the base, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1/2 times 6 times 2. 6 times 2 is 12. Half of that is 6. So the deadweight loss is going to be $6 in this case. And you know how to get the total surplus as the consumer surplus plus the producer surplus, 48 in this case. And the total benefit is going to be this total area, the yellow plus the blue plus the green is going to be the total area under the demand curve, and that will give us the total benefit, the most this consumer would be willing to pay to get the 4 units. So in this case, I can see that it's going to be, we can see total revenue of 60 plus consumer surplus of 8, it would be $68. Now let's go down and look at the tax down here. I want to make sure that this is probably the one that's more confusing. Now again, I said there's 2 ways. When we went through taxes, there's 2 ways to figure out what's going on with the tax. One way for a tax of 3 is just to say, okay, well, what we're looking for is we're trying to find a place where the price on the demand curve here is $3 higher than the price on the supply curve here. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. The first way you can do that is just to make yourself a little ruler that is $3 high. So I'm just going down here on the y-axis from 0 to 3 and making myself a little box. And I'm going to take that little box and I'm going to ask myself, where can I jam that box in here in between the demand and the supply curves to where it just barely fits? And that's going to be right here. The distance between the demand right here and the supply curve right here is that $3. Now if we stretch that box out over to the y-axis over here, that box is going to give us the tax revenue. It's 3 high and it's 5 wide because that quantity right here where that $3 fits in between the x and the y-axis, that quantity is 5 units. Now, suppose you don't like that method. Let's do it a different way. A different way to do it would be to take a pencil and to take this supply curve and shift it up by the amount of the tax, $3 in this case. So if the tax is $3, let's just take this supply curve. I'm going to make a copy of it. Whoop. Let me grab that copy that I made. Okay. And I'm going to take this copy of the supply curve, and instead of the y-intercept being 1, I'm going to move it up $1, $2, $3, the amount of the tax. The point of doing this is because putting a tax on a product, suppose it's a tax on a seller, will decrease the supply curve, and this is the way it will decrease the supply curve by shifting it straight up $3 everywhere. 1, 2, 3. Everywhere you see the distance, $1, 2, $3. What we want to do is we want to find where the new equilibrium is going to be the new equilibrium price and the new equilibrium quantity. That's the point we want. Now, once we find that new point, we don't really need that new supply curve anymore. I think it just causes confusion. Let's get rid of it. Let's just slide it over here. What we're looking for is to find out that the new price, the new equilibrium price, is going to be $14. So let's draw a line over there to $14. The new equilibrium quantity is 5 units. Let's draw a line straight down to 5 units. And let me color those so that we can see those a little more clearly. Color them red. So all we really need to know to analyze a tax is the crucial thing is to find that point. Now, the way I found the point before is I just looked for the place where there's a $1, $2, $3 gap between demand and supply. If that makes you uncomfortable, then again, with a pencil maybe, draw a new supply curve. It's going to have the same slope of 2, plus 2 in this case, but it's going to be exactly $3 above. And look for where the new supply curve and the old demand curve intersect. Mark that point, and you can erase that pencil line that was your new supply curve. The crucial thing is that price and that quantity. Price of 14, quantity of 5. Once we see that quantity of 5, that price, that $14, that's going to be the price the consumers pay. And if we go down, 14 minus 3, straight down, 1, 2, 3, down to $11, that's going to tell us the price that the producers actually get to keep out of this price that they get. So I give the producer $14. He sends $3 of that to the government, and that leaves him $11. So there's this other price, the price the producer actually gets to keep, $11 there. Once you figure that out, you can now hopefully picture where everything else is going to occur. We can just say, well, we know that the consumer surplus is above the $14 they pay, but below the demand curve, right there. So let me highlight that yellow. And you can calculate the area of that triangle with no problems at all. We know the tax revenue is the $3 here. 1, 2, 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is $15 in tax revenue. And so we can highlight that tax revenue box here. So let me draw a little box there for the tax revenue, and I'll give that a different color. We'll call that blue for the tax revenue. And then the producer surplus here is going to be above the supply curve, but below this price that the business gets to keep for what it sells. So let me draw that shape there for the producer surplus. And we'll color that green. I'll make that a little more see-through so we can see what's behind it there. And then the area under the supply curve here is going to be the variable cost as always. And let's see, we'll color that some kind of pink for the variable cost there. So I'm sure you can find the areas of those things, and gave you those numbers right at the end of the class. Let me give you those numbers one more time just to make absolutely sure that you have them. So here for the tax example, this consumer's price is going to be $14. The producer's price is $11. The quantity is 5 units. The total revenue I think about as being the 11 price, the producer's price times 5. So total revenue I would call 55 here. This consumer surplus up here is $12.50. The tax revenue is 15. The producer surplus, I got $37.50 here. The variable costs, I get 30. Sorry, that's not right. Producer surplus is 25 there. And the variable cost is 30. I accidentally looked at the wrong number here. The total surplus, 25 plus 12.50, is $37.50. And the total benefit is the whole area under the demand curve here. So you have to add up everything. If you add up all the numbers you see right here, you'll get the total benefit. And what I get is $82.50 for that. Which only leaves the deadweight loss, which is a little tiny triangle over here. And let me color that. Oh, I'll color that dark blue. And that deadweight loss is, again, as I mentioned in class, kind of small in this case, and it's pretty small because this tax isn't having a huge effect on the market. It's only reducing the quantity from 6 to 5. The last thing you want to keep in mind with a tax is the incidence. The incidence of the tax. This is a $3 tax. The $3 has got to come partially from the buyer and partially from the seller. And the way we determine who's paying how much of the tax, which is just all the incidence is to look at the old price here. The old price was $13. What price is the consumer paying now? They used to pay $13, now they pay $14. Well, their price went up $1. This difference right here from the old price of $13 to the new price of $14, that dollar is the consumer's incidence. That's how much they're paying of the tax. This other $2 down here, from 14 down to 11, sorry, 13 down to 11, 1, 2, tells you the amount of the tax that's being absorbed by the buyer. The buyer used to be able to get $13 when they sold the product. Now they only get $11, $2 less. So the incidence, the $3, is split here, $1 for the consumer, $2 for the producer. So in this case, we would say that the producer pays twice as much of the $3 tax. They pay $2. The consumer only pays $1 of that tax. So I hope running through this helped you. If you have any questions, come by or please send me an email. I'll be happy to talk to you about this some more.